Hi, I'm Anne-Marie from Brambleberry.com and SoapQueen.com. Thanks so much for joining me today on Soap Queen TV. Today's episode is all about fun. Kiddo fun, that is. We're going to be making soap that has little tiny toys embedded in it, making it especially fun for the kids to take a bath. Plus, each layer is scented with its very own fruity, fabulous fragrance, making each layer a fun surprise. Some helpful hints before we get started. 1. Make sure in between each layer that you spritz each layer with rubbing alcohol to help the layers bond. 2. Each layer needs to be between 120 and 130 before you pour so you don't accidentally melt the other layer. And 3. Make sure to spritz those embedding toys liberally with rubbing alcohol. For more helpful tips on embedding and layering, make sure and watch the 4th and 12th episodes of Soap Queen TV to learn even more about how to make this project a success. So first, a quick breakdown of this project. It's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 layers with a clear layer in the middle with a tiny cute eraser toy in there for the kids. Are you ready? Let's get started. Melt 8 ounces of white Brambleberry melt and pour base in the microwave on 30-second bursts. If it's not quite ready after 30 seconds, just stir any extra chunkage you have in and put it in for another 30 seconds. Once the soap is fully melted, add about 1/4 ounce of watermelon fragrance oil. I'm just going to eyeball it since this is 1 ounce. Then we're going to add a few generous glops of non-bleeding red. It's important we use non-bleeding colorants for each of these layers so we don't get a halo effect in between the layers. Mix all this in well, and then pour this into the very bottom of your loaf mold. This first layer is probably going to take about 5 to 6 minutes to cool. While it's cooling, go ahead and start preparing your second layer. Weigh out 8 ounces of white melt and pour soap base from Brambleberry.com. Toss it in the microwave and start melting it for 30-second increments. This layer is going to use Summer Fling fragrance oil from Brambleberry. It smells like peaches, magnolias, raspberries, and lilies, and just basically smells like summer. Add 1/4 ounce of this fragrance oil to your soap. To get a really nice green that's going to contrast with the pink, add around 10 drops of the Brambleberry non-bleeding liquid green oxide. Stir all of this in well. Now make sure to check that temperature. Is it below 130? Look at the first layer. Will it support that second layer? If it's ready and hard, spritz liberally with rubbing alcohol. Take your green soap and just pour it gently over the soap. While we're waiting for that green layer to harden, weigh out and melt down 16 to 17 ounces of Brambleberry melt and pour clear base. Put this in the microwave on 30-second bursts. Once it's melted down, may take a couple minutes, add just half a drop of liquid non-bleeding blue color to it. This is a technique called bluing. We're not adding any fragrance to this layer at all because we want it to stay extra clear. Spritz your little piggies liberally with rubbing alcohol. Before we put our piggies into the soap, pour a little bit of clear soap down. We're actually going to use this to glue their little feet down so they don't float to the top. Now arrange them in whatever direction you want, facing to the side, facing to the front, upside down. Whatever you want. Just arrange them knowing you're going to need to cut between them, so equally space them out. Let this thin layer cool to make sure the piggies are really in there firmly. Check your clear soap. Is it 130 degrees or below? I'm using a spoon here to pour my clear soap over and into because I don't want to knock any little piggies out of the way. Spritz this layer with alcohol to make sure there's no bubbles on the top of that clear soap. Let this harden. And it's time to make our final 2 layers. For layer 4, I'm going to use Pearberry Fragrance oil, which is a real kid pleaser. Around 1/4 ounce will do it. And then the colorant is yellow non-bleeding colorant. And I'm using around 6 to 8 drops to get this nice, beautiful yellow colorant. For our fifth and final layer, I'm using Sun Ripened Raspberry. Again, about a 1/4 ounce in your 8 ounces of melted white melt and pour base. I'd like a nice purple, so I'm going with liquid non-bleeding blue and the non-bleeding red and mixing them together to get a beautiful pastel purple. Remember to spritz liberally between layers with your rubbing alcohol. And of course, on top of every layer after you pour it to make sure there's no air bubbles in between the layers. Let this cool for 4 to 8 hours and then it's time to get ready to pop it out. I made this ahead of time because I knew you were going to want to see how it looked. It's easy to release from these loaf molds. Just pull gently away at the sides. Do you see that airlock releasing? Super cool. It's visual confirmation you're going the right way. When I'm cutting this project, I like to use, of course, a sharp knife. Also, I put it on its side because I want to make sure I don't accidentally cut off any precious little piggy snouts. Line your knife up so it's clearly going to go in between the little piggies. Cut straight down. Aren't these so cute? I just think they're absolutely adorable, and I know your kids are going to flip for them. They're gonna especially love the fragrance too. Thanks so much for joining me on today's episode of Soap Queen TV. Until next time, happy soaping. Pop the soap gently out, and now put it on its side. I like to put it on its side because then I can actually see where the little piggy rear ends are and I don't cut them off. I shouldn't say that, huh? Should I say that? Aren't these so cute? Until next time, happy soaping. Happy oinking.